going to call the meeting in order for our special meeting of the Citizen Advisory Committee for Thursday, May the 15th, 2025. We can have a roll call, please.
Ms. Ritz.
Here.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Ms. Benson.
Here.
Dr. D'Annunzio.
Here.
Mr. Perkins.
Here.
Chairman Williams.
Here.
Ms. Campbell.
Here.
Ms. Cromartie.
Here.
Mr. Kirchner.
Here.
Mr. Stevens.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've asked Ms. Campbell to lead us in the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather here today in service of our community. We ask your guidance and wisdom as we discuss the matters before us. Grant us clear minds, compassionate hearts, and the courage to make decisions that benefit those we serve. Help us to work together with integrity, respect, and spirit of unity. Make our efforts today reflect your commitment to stewardship, sustainability, and the well-being of the citizens. Bless each member of this board, our staff, and the public who place their trust in us. May this meeting be productive, purposeful, and guided by your grace. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, nation under God, justice for all.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Campbell. We like to know if there are any changes to the agenda as it is printed. If there are no changes to the agenda, I need a motion from Mrs. Campbell and a second to approve the agenda. Mrs. Stevens seconds. It's been moved and seconded, moved by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Mrs. Stevens, that the agenda be adopted as printed. And by a show of hands, can we all vote? Unanimously, we approve the agenda for today's meeting. Thank you. Now we proceed to our open forum for today. And we have one of our frequent persons, and I don't like not getting her name exactly right, so beforehand I'll say that, and it's no slight at all. Ms. Nair, you are our speaker for today. Please come, address, and make your case.
You said it right, Pichelle Schneier.
Okay, wonderful. We're off to a great start.
414 North Guillemard Street. So thank you for allowing me to speak. I woke up this morning to Senate bill tracker notification that Governor DeSantis signed SB 700. So it is officially passed, it's set in stone. The effective date is July 1st. And I was wondering, so what the next steps are for ECUA. And I'm hoping that you vote at the next board meeting to not order anymore and to just to get it removed.
Okay, anybody want to respond to that in any way?
I also
Mr. Woody?
Go ahead.
The topic was tabled at our last meeting, so I'll only repeat what was shared earlier. Is we've paused purchases while waiting for the board to give us further direction.
We do follow chain of command at this level of government, so I'm sure we'll be in compliance by the effective date.
Okay, great. So, well, what's next for ECUA? Like, what is the money going to be used for? Did y'all already vote on that, or will there be discussion on it?
We're going over our budget right now, and I'm sure with the shortfalls we have pending, it will be incorporated in some way to cover those shortfalls.
Thank you. I appreciate the back and forth. I know you don't have to do that with me, but I appreciate it.
It's okay. I'm speaking the best I can for the board, but I'm sure it'll be a discussion at a later date in which you'll get more information, particular about the questions you're asking.
Great.
Okay, so exactly, okay, Ms. Snyder, ask all the questions you have for the record, and at our next ECUA board meeting, we will have a discussion concerning the SB 700.
Great, okay. Well, I've asked the questions, and so I appreciate it. Are you going to take it out, not order anymore, I guess, would be the question. Are you not going to order anymore? And I think that's been paused. And then what the money's going to be used for. And you'll probably have more definitive answers after this budget meeting is all finished. So
Yes.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No worries. I thank you for being a advocate for the issues that concern you the most.
Thank you.
Yes. Ms. Ritz, would you like to speak?
I'd like to ask Ms. Snyder, I was hoping you would bring the studies that you're basing your request on.
Sorry?
I would appreciate you bringing the scientific studies that you are basing your request on.
Oh, I don't have any scientific studies. It's basically constitutional. We have a constitutional
I am
right.
a person that believes in science. and
Okay.
it
There's
would
nothing
be
scientific about
helpful
it.
to
Excuse me, please. I have to regain the order based upon the fact that this issue was tabled, and we really are not going to have any further discussion on it.
I understand totally. I would like to say for the record that my views on this issue, and I'm able to talk, I know that the board isn't, so I'm not going to ask any more questions. I'm not going to expect back and forth. My views on fluoride, it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad. That has nothing to do with the issue whatsoever. It actually has nothing to do with fluoride. SB 700 does not specifically state fluoride at all. The reason I don't want any additives in the water are because we have a constitutional right not to be medicated by the government. The government has no right to medicate citizens whatsoever. We have a constitutional right to privacy, which court rulings have agreed that includes the right to refuse medicine. I have a constitutional right. Everybody who does not want any medicine, it doesn't have anything to do with fluoride. It could be fluoride, vitamin C, whatever you want to put in the water. Like some kid, there's a lot of kids with ADHD. Why not put Adderall in the water? Where does it end? But regardless, I don't want to get on the topic of other medicines. Right now, fluoride or hydrofluorosilicic acid is the only medicine in the water. That's why it's become the fluoride bill. And we have a constitutional right to refuse it. And over the last 80 years, somehow our rights have been squashed, and certain government entities have chosen to medicate us, even though we have the constitutional right to refuse. So those government entities have gone against the Constitution and have gone against our American rights and freedoms. So that's the answer to that question, and I appreciate the question, and I appreciate the chance to clarify. It has nothing to do with science. It's not scientific at all. I'm not a scientist. I don't know whether it's good or bad. I don't care whether it's good or bad. It has nothing to do with science or whether it's good or bad. It has to do with my constitutional rights to refuse medicine. If I get cancer,
Thank you.
I don't want to be forced to get chemotherapy. I want to have options. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can you enlighten me as to what the rules are for the open forum as far as time limit?
Yes, sir. As per written, there's a 5-minute time limit per person. We've been very liberal with allowing individuals to make their case completely and move on from there. So that's what we did today, and we're ready to go forward with our presentations. And our first presentation for today is sanitation and materials recycling facility. And it will be done by Mr. Tommy Fitzpatrick.
All right, good afternoon. All right, through the chair, I know yesterday you gave a happy birthday to Aaron Tilley, who is the GIS manager, and I know you said you've never seen anybody from GIS. I would like to introduce you to her.
Oh, is that right?
So she could just give a few little words. I know she may know somebody on the board also, I found out, so.
You're an actual person?
Yes, yeah, thanks for the shout out. I'm Erin Tilley, I'm the GIS manager here at ECUA. I've actually been here, I just hit 18 years. I actually started as an intern here doing GIS, so I have been here quite a while. I don't know, do you guys want a little information about GIS? I can kind of give you some projects we're working on, if you want me to give you a quick rundown, or I don't want to take too much time.
Well, I know the presentation. I had a couple of questions based upon GIS information in the presentation. So now that you're here,
Okay.
my questions can be answered as the presentation goes on.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you've been here at ECUA for 18 years.
I have.
Wow, nice.
Yes, yep,
Very nice.
Yep, we're just very busy.
Okay, very nice.
So, yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions. You know, if y'all ever have any GIS questions or want to meet the team or see us, we're right upstairs. Stop by. You can call, email me. We're happy to report, show y'all all the cool stuff we're doing, and you know, anything going on. You know, feel free, hit me up.
Okay.
We're happy to share that stuff.
Okay.
So, all right.
We will-
but thanks for the birthday shout out.
We will do that, yeah, and you're more
Yeah.
than welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good start to a productive day ahead. So, Mr. Fitzpatrick, please continue.
All righty, the sanitation department overview. Get my little clicker here. So the sanitation department itself is made up of many different departments within the sanitation department. The largest volume of the sanitation department, of course, is our residential waste services, where we do weekly curbside garbage, recycling, and yard trash, and with bulk pickup available by request. Next largest part is our commercial waste services. We provide dumpsters and roll-off collection for businesses and private citizens too. A lot of people don't realize we do have roll-offs for private citizens at your home and so forth. The waste can services used to be under or inside the residential services. We kind of pulled that out a little bit to get some KPIs and some better metrics on that, and I'll kind of go over why we did that here in another slide. But they primarily do four main jobs. They deliver new cans for new residential customers. They repair your cans. They do swaps, which means if somebody does not want to do recycling, just wants to do garbage, we'll swap out your can for you. And we also do pickups for people that are no longer residents. So we do those. And we do that for over 180,000 containers out there, cans. There's 180,000 cans, which has a lifespan cycle of about 10 years too. So that's a big thing right there. So the next large division that's in there is our fleet maintenance division. We actually have 2 garages. And we actually have 4 fueling sites. A lot of people don't know how many fueling sites we have, but we actually have 4 fueling sites. They support all of the sanitation vehicles, all of their waste trucks, the side loaders, rear loaders, front loaders, etc. And also white fleet. And we have a very robust, large white fleet with over 200 white fleet vehicles. A lot of those are class 6, 7, and 8 vehicles. We have a lot of semi-tractor trailers. We have a lot of tanker trucks. A lot of vac trucks that you see running around. There's very, very large equipment in the white fleet, and most of their larger trucks are over 3-ton trucks. We actually have a lot of heavy equipment too. We have a lot of front loaders. We have excavators. We have Mobart, and a roto chopper. We just work on the Mobart though. And we have quite a bit of small engine assets, which are lawnmowers, chainsaws, all that. We actually have an actual department over in the shop that actually works on those on a daily basis. Composting, we take all the yard waste and biosolids and process them to make great compost. And we sell those like no tomorrow. We've been doing a lot of aggressive advertising on that. And this year, we've hit record sales that we've never hit before. So really good sales on composting right now. We really are looking at expanding that. That's another slide I'll show you here in the future. And then, of course, our administrative services in our sanitation division, they basically handle all the issues that are brought forth from the call center, correcting work orders in our AS400 database, and supporting our supervisor with accurate in-field information as we move forward. I know the big topic was personnel and where we stand and so forth. So I kind of created some of these as I was listening through the board through all the other presentations. So I thought I would just throw these right on in here. So here's a overview of what's filled position, vacant position, and our total positions. Right now we have basically 6 positions open, and every single one of those are a operator of a garbage truck. 2 of them are in commercial, 4 of them are in residential. As of last week, we did hire 2. As of last week, they're going to start in the next 2 weeks. But as of today, when I did talk to Mr. Gary here, he let me know that we had 1 person today put in their paperwork for retirement. So we move up 1, we go back 1. So right now we're at about a 5%. I know there was some talk about FMLA and all that about others, so I just went ahead and threw that in there for you too. So right now at this current phase, we have 2 people out full-time on FMLA, and we have 1 person out on workman's comp. There are 5 people. It's called intermediate FMLA. I'm not sure if everybody knows what intermediate FMLA is for. So what that is you can get approved through FMLA for an intermediate leave, meaning that if you're a caregiver for somebody or something like that and they have doctor's appointments throughout the year and so forth, you can go ahead and have that pre-done for that. So this way it doesn't affect your job performance or anything like that. So it's kind of a helping hand to help cover that. So these are people that are not out every single day. They just randomly throughout the year will use that intermediate FMLA for that. So just wanted to highlight that for you and let you know what that was about. The second one is composting, our composting department. As you can see, we have 7 positions and they're all filled. So there's absolutely no vacancies. There's really no FMLA out right now and no workman's comp out. So that department's doing fabulous job right there. And that is one of our windrow turners right there in that picture. If you see the picture right there, that's what turns up the composting and so forth. So aerating it and so forth to make our great compost. Next position, fleet department. In that particular department, as you can see, the majority of the vacancies are, of course, mechanics right now. We are down right this minute a fleet maintenance manager. We are working through the process of hiring at this particular moment, and hopefully by the beginning of next month, we'll have a new shop manager out there. Materials management specialists, those are technically parts people that gather the parts and so forth for the mechanics. We're 2 down, but we've also hired 1 person for that, and that person should be starting in the next week or 2. The biggest challenge, of course, is mechanics. As I think everybody in this room knows, that's one of those fields that are very, very hard to get. If you look up on there, though, you will see that there is we have added, in just this last year, a fleet apprentice mechanic through Laughlin. So we are working with Laughlin College, and we have got our first, the one in between these 2 counties. He's the first and only one right this minute that is working, and so he's a great guy. We definitely want to try to start expanding that particular process, but right now, you know, the need for journey level is definitely there, especially with the complexity of these vehicles and so forth. Right now, we have 1 out on FMLA and 1 out on workman's comp. There are 5 total that are approved intermediate FMLA. So that kind of just gives you a rundown of where we're at as of positions. Some of the key accomplishments for our fiscal year 25 is the biggest one is our can department. We had a huge complaint reduction in the can department because of a couple things. We were averaging 300 plus each month of complaints. I'm sure many of you have got the calls and and so forth. We are down to less than 30 now because of a couple really good innovations that were in there. One of them is a rollout of what's called Route for Me. It's an an automated routing software solution. It's not as automated as you think. IT really was the champion on this. So with IT staff and so forth, they were able to take our data, which is our work orders that we get just in can department alone between 200 and 300 a day, literally a day. And they would print those out too all the time. They were able to run those into basically an Excel spreadsheet, and now we're able to grab that data every night right after closing time, grab that, and it gets automatically thrown into Route for Me, automatically routes every single route by efficiency. So by the mileage, whichever is the least mileage per route, and we're able to feed that into who does what route. So even if somebody took off that day, let's just say we have 6 drivers for that day and somebody took off, you can re-enter that for 5 and it will automatically display the routes for those 5. So really, that's helped us out tremendously right there. So we've definitely beta testing that. We're doing a cross-departmental automation right this minute with our MIST department, with our bulk department, and our commercial department right now as we speak. So we're starting to implement that. One of the big things about that too was a sustainability win of 75% less paper. With doing that, because they all have tablets now. So that's what they use, tablets, to give them the direction turn by turn and so forth. So they don't need all this paper showing them where to go and this and that, and for each and every work order. So now it's in their tablet and so forth. Another big win that we had this year too was enhancing recycling enforcement. And with the board's help and with many of you on the board that has already went with Sigrid and went and did the neighborhood audits with the recycling audits, that's really helping us out a lot. So what we do, we give them a couple chances to correct the behavior if they're just throwing trash. And there are a few that just throw trash in there and they just don't want a recycling can. So right now, we've removed up to 3% of the contaminated containers so far by doing that audit. So that's just helping us, helping the MRF out and so forth without having to run garbage through the MRF. So that's one of our big wins. Now, 2026 departmental goals, one of our biggest ones that we're really looking for.
Let me ask you a question, if I may, about
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
2025.
Yes, sir.
You talked about the 300 requests that are put in every night before you drive. Are those the ones that the customers call in and say they have a special pickup, or what actually is entered in? How do you know what material is entered in the next day?
Absolutely. So that's a great question. So that's for the can department. So if you, went out to bring in your can and your wheel fell off, okay. You're going to call in and say, hey, my wheel fell off. So that's going to be a can repair.
Right.
Or you come home and your can's completely missing because your neighbors got kicked out of their house and they're like, hey, I need this to help move. Let me throw all this stuff, the dog food in it and everything. They throw it on the U-Haul and they leave. Hey, my can's missing, we come bring you another can.
Okay.
Or if you say, hey, look, I don't want this recycling thing anymore. I just want another garbage can. Can you swap it out then? And like I said, we get between 200 to 300 of those requests every single day.
And so the turnaround now is, within the week?
Yes, sir. So on 3 of the 4 things that we do, which is a repair, a swap, or a pickup, we have to do it during your cycle day because of HOAs, because HOA doesn't want you to keep that out, and neither does the county. County says that it can only be during that day. So those have to be done during your cycle day. So if you called, we do it your next cycle day whenever you called. As of drop-offs now, we've gotten that down to within 2 days. So if you're a brand new customer, you just came in, and you say, hey, I need a new can, we're going to get it to you within 2 business days.
Okay.
Yep. All right, so for 2026, one of the big things that we're looking forward to is routing performance tracking. We're looking at definitely expanding our digital tracking across all of our routes. The biggest thing is planning with an API that IT and with us that we just got back from Essential Square, which is called Engage. It was a really good conference through our Naviline system that connects basically our current customers in that, but we want to connect that to basically our GPS and our camera system that we want to implement this coming up year, and that will be a 360 camera system to your point, Mr. Stevens. So we're definitely looking at that. It isn't just for this, it is for risk mitigation too. A big part of it is risk mitigation, but the other big part of it too is, are we collecting cans at places that haven't paid their bill, or there's they have only purchased 2 cans but they got 4 cans, and we're picking up 4 cans all the time instead of just 2. These are things that we can start really defining and getting a lot better at our business model and getting into the weeds of it. Reduce recycling contamination by 5%. It goes back to our public education and our consumer feedback loop. That's where we go out and do our auditing and so forth. One big thing though is we definitely want to grow composting by at least 8%. So targeting outreach, but a big thing is that we are pending a state grant right now for $500,000. So last we checked, it is still there. It's still there. So it's still there, but hopefully governor's nice and he doesn't line item that particular part, because we desperately need that out there. That's going on 10 years old. The land itself where it's at, it was kind of a cement based style, but it's still soil, but it's a cement based style, and it's very, very, very uneven. So there's only certain places now that we can actually do the windrows. We can't utilize the full space, and we really need that completely redone. Once we do that, we'll be able to do more composting, selling, and so forth. And another huge win.
Excuse me, you talked about the compost bin so great. Where do you get that from?
Our compost?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Great question again. So what we do is every week when we're picking up your green waste or all your yard trash, it goes to our composting facility, and then we run it through a grinder and chop it up into very small portions, and then we take that and make rows out of it. Then we go over to Randy's group, and then he gives us some used water to pour in it. And then we mix that up really good and everything, and it takes about 2 to 3 months to go through the process, and it's tested for A+ certification, so it is certified when we're done with it to make sure there's no really any kind of really bad stuff in it and everything. So everything's A+ certified. Composting in there once it's done, and it will make your grass grow like no tomorrow. Let me tell you, we have people just from basically word of mouth. We get people coming in left and right with that, and it's by appointment. You can go online and fill it out, and we'll set it up for you and sell it to you by the cubic yard or by the bag. So either way, and believe me, you do wonders in your grass to put that over it. It's amazing how much that grows.
Okay.
Yep, it's absolutely amazing.
That's a service we provide.
We absolutely do, and it's right around the corner. It's right behind us here.
Okay, very good.
And you'll see all the roses. Do you see all the roses have you ever went out the back way here in there? There's a lot of roses in the center. We have our little insignia on that. Those are all from compost.
Is that right?
Oh, yes. Yep, and they grow really, really good. So, and Gary could tell you too. Look at, he's got it at sanitation too. So he's got.
Oh, he has roses and sanitation?
Yes, he does. From the composting, it's all in the front of it. All in the front. It looks really, really good. Next time you go to sanitation, please go to the front. You're going to be amazed at what it looks like. So it looks really, really good. It's a delightful thing for the employees to walk in to something that looks good. So. Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So Gary and Tim did the other one over on the other side. So okay. Great stuff. Another big thing, another big win for.
Before you leave that subject, Mr. Chairman, can I add a couple comments?
Oh yes, I apologize.
A couple nice things about our composting program. Yes, we use biosolids from the adjacent wastewater treatment plant that we add together with an inoculant in order to speed up the composting process. The nice thing about using that product from the water reclamation facility is that it also is a cost avoidance for us. We target more than 25 and hopefully even approaching 50% by volume of the biosolids that we would otherwise having to be spending energy and fuel on to dry to a lower moisture content in order to get rid of it as a fertilizer for all the material that we can instead send to the composting operation. We save a lot of energy expense not having to heat that product. So it's beneficial in several ways.
Okay, and we also said that it's an expanding program.
Yes, yeah, yes. I mean, we're looking at selling more once we get the platform basically cleared out, because it's got a lot of ruts and so forth in there. We've got to, and we could definitely take on the 50%, no problem, once it's all cleared out.
And that's in the state legislature's budget for this year, just waiting a signature
Yes, sir.
from the governor.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so all of those who know the governor, please, ma'am, sir, ask for a signature. Okay, okay,
Chairman.
now,
Just,
one
yeah, go ahead.
more, since we're talking about compost,
Sure.
and we talked about grade A plus,
Yes.
plus, Rose Gardens, we didn't talk about cost for all of those who may be in listening. What is the cost per yard and cost per bag?
$10 per yard, okay, and it's $4.25 per bag.
$10 per yard.
Per yard, yes. Yes, that's quite a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Ms.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I've been high on this composting program since we've started. I mean, my constituents who use it just sing the praises of what it does. But there was a little red flag that I want to ask you about. You talked about grass. And for 20 years, I've been on this campaign to get rid of lawns because lawns are, they're not environmentally productive. And as I recall from when we had the old Main Street plant, one of the reasons we had algae blooms and other things was blamed on the runoff from residential lawns going into our waterways. And so all the environmentalists said, don't have lawns, don't fertilize your lawn. If we use our compost, our wonderful compost, on residential lawns in areas adjacent to the waterways, are we polluting? Does our compost pollute our waterways? And I don't know the answer.
I'm not a scientist or anything like that, so I would have to.
We don't. We regularly test for pathogens in order for it to meet grade A. There are not. When you buy fertilizers, they're rated for the quantity of nitrogen, phosphorus, and I think it's potash.
Right.
I think
Yeah, and those are
three items. It's relatively low overall.
Yeah, it's 1.5.
Yeah, compared to buying a fertilizer. So you're getting benefits, but not as high as you would if you were fertilizing. So that would be a better, more environmentally sensitive way to help your lawn than putting fertilizer down. It still does add some of those constituents that everybody's concerned about, namely nitrogen in particular.
Yeah, nitrogen. Well, it would be interesting to look into that and even to contemplate, and I don't want to get too carried away because we have disclaimers everywhere, the idea of recommending if you live in a waterfront community, you may limit your use of this and other products that contain nitrogen. Because I think many people are not aware of that, and I mean, we're in the environmental business, so let's just look into that and see if that's something we should do as public awareness. Anyway, not a criticism of your program, by the way. It's great.
All right.
Yeah, Tommy, thank you. I sat here with my third year now. I'm very gratified and with pride to sit up here. And I cannot speak highly enough about ECUA. And every year I learn something. Every meeting I learn something. And I brought this up before. I mean, I'm sure Natalie doesn't want to keep hearing it, but ECTV, have we done anything with them? It is, do you know what I'm talking about, Tommy?
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, I was there when it started, and I know Gene and I utilized it a great deal for a lot of, it took care of a lot of answers of the constituents. Okay. And there's so many things that we do at ECUA that I think would be phenomenal to put it out there.
Sure. Yep. Any response? We'll definitely get together. We get together every Friday anyways, the team for the PIO team. We all get together for basically see what's for the following week and what happened the week before. But that will definitely be one of my topics. I got it down right now for you.
Yeah, please. Thank you, Tommy.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Natalie.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I want to thank you for your consistency in that comment. And it's still as valuable today as it was when you first brought it up. And to date, we have not done the necessary work to get you a good answer. But for all the positive advertisement we're looking for, it does seem like a very viable option as an outlet. So I hope we do take it for action to find out what it would require for us to utilize it, benefits for utilizing it, and bring all these great products that we're talking about to the wider public. So thank you for continuing to bring that up.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Stevens, did you have a question? Okay. Okay, well, Ms. Ritz, you can ask your question.
40 pounds is pretty heavy for me to lift up into my vehicle. Is there a 20-pound?
It's actually up to 40 pounds. So it's yes, ma'am. So it's I want to say it's 2.5 cubic feet or something that's in the actual bag as of the part. They just call it a 40-pound bag, up to 40. Depends on what it is. Usually the bags that are out there have dried out some, so the moisture contents left it. So it's usually around 30, 35 pounds, somewhere in that area.
Can a person request a certain weight?
Right now we don't have those kind of bags, but that's something I could definitely look into.
I'd appreciate it.
Yep,
Thank
absolutely.
You.
Please continue, Mr.
Okay. All right, the next one for 2026, deploying Limbo Fleet software. Right now, we really don't have a dedicated fleet software for our vehicles and stuff, so this will help us improve quite a bit. One thing this has is QR codes for the dash for all the vehicles. So when somebody has an issue with the vehicle or anything like that, they can actually take out their phone, scan it in. They don't have to have an app or anything. They can scan it in and put down what's wrong with their vehicle. And then we instantly get it right then. And then it goes on like if you ever ordered pizza from Domino's, how it says it's in the oven, it's on its way, it actually has that for it. So it will let them know what we're doing about it and so forth. It actually keeps the drivers engaged on the process of where their vehicle is in live time. So that's coming. It's going to be deployed here hopefully within the next couple months. So we were able to get that going too. So for this coming up year. I think my clicker died on me. There it goes. Yep. Okay, so the budget. Let's talk about the budget for a second. So our biggest thing about the budget is, we're investing in people and a smarter service. So right now we're looking at an increase of 2.75% increase, which is below the CPI average of 3.4% right now. So And that primarily is cost of living adjustments, health insurance, and fundings for merit retention and recruitment. Our operational core values of it is basically remaining flat. So from what I did last year is what I need this year, and I can still get everything that I told you about for 2026 accomplished with all the upgrades and so forth. So that's the part of the budget itself. So any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Woody?
Yeah, I'd just like to really give tremendous kudos to the work that Tommy's doing. That very brief budget comment is just a small indication of efficiencies he's finding, different modes and methods of accomplishing work, and he has a long list of additional tasks ahead of him this next year that he's already identified. He's doing a wonderful job. He's saving that department quite a bit of money and making them more efficient. So thank you, Tommy, very much for your work you're doing.
Thank you.
Mr. Stevens?
And Tom, I just want to second that. I know your reply is going to be it's you and staff, and
absolutely.
One is too small a number for greatness for sure. But I appreciate your enthusiasm. I always like to listen to you all and the other department heads and Gabe and the rest of you guys, and just I can tell you've got a servant leader's heart for sure, and you're excited about what you do every day, and that means a lot. That always had the phrase people don't quit their jobs or quit their bosses. So
absolutely.
That's a huge benefit to have you piloting that ship in your department. I'm sure your subordinates appreciate it as well. Quite a few questions. Mechanics 1 and Mechanics 2. So just, I don't need long detail,
absolutely.
But the skill set required for Mechanic 1 and a Mechanic 2, and then the current associated pay with those positions.
Absolutely. Mechanic 1 is basically a lube tech, beginning, entry level.
Changes, etc.
Mechanic 2 is basically somebody that is in the field doing water pumps, brake jobs, the little bit heavier stuff and so forth. Hopefully for next year, we are going to be looking at something to maybe even have a level 3 that incorporates more ASC certifications, because that is one of my other goals. I couldn't list all the goals because it took 4 or 5 PowerPoints, but one of them is for us to be in the top 100 of the United States out of 60,000 fleet garages. There's actually 60,000 in the United States. Want to be in the top 100. And one of those goals is to be Blue Seal certified through ASC certification. As of right now, there's nobody in Escamilla County or in even Santa Rosa County that is a Blue Seal certified garage. So I want to definitely be one of the first of that, and that requires us to have 75% of our mechanics at least one ASC certification or more. So that's one of our big goals for next year too, to get that on board with ASC certification and rewarding the mechanics for getting those ASC certifications. As for pay, the entry level pay, that's really more of an HR thing, but it's around $18 an hour. I hate to say that's for a one. Yes, okay. Sir. And then to level up to a 2 is roughly $20 to $21 an hour.
Okay, and I say that because I actually have a pretty significant amount of experience in overseeing finances for fleet maintenance companies, and I can tell you that I'm glad to see because that's where I was going with this, is you've got money in your budget for merit increases and pay increases for those positions, because you will not fill those vacant positions with $18, $21 an hour.
Oh, absolutely.
I can tell you,
absolutely.
Not even in the realm of the universe.
Absolutely.
Average, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know,
right.
But you're talking $30, $40+ an hour minimum. And that we'll be competing, and of course, you attaining your goals means we attain all of our goals.
Absolutely.
And the private sector is paying double that right now. So just kind of not to give you, I just want you to have a realistic expectation, which you already do because you've got a lot of experience in it. So that's where you're looking for, and so I'm assuming most of anything above brake jobs and oil changes and filters and basic stuff, we're subbing out to other fleet maintenance companies like transmissions or fuel pumps or water filter. I mean, or are we doing that in-house?
We were subbing all that out, but I think that hurt us though in a way, because we weren't given the experience for the one mechanics that we had that could do that, to show the other mechanics how to actually do that. And so we're doing engine jobs now and so forth. Average engine
Okay.
job in frame, the engine jobs that we were sending out were between $50,000 and $60,000 for one of our sanitation trucks. We're doing them in-house for around $7,000.
Okay, and that's a huge savings. So we actually have, so which brings me to another question is, how many mechanics are able to actually do an engine rebuild?
Fortunately, right now, I have about 6 of them.
6 of them?
Yes.
That can
Mhm.
actually do
Absolutely.
full-blown engine
Oh,
rebuilds?
absolutely.
That is
Absolutely.
a huge, that's
absolutely.
significant. And then out of that 6, how many are due to retire in the next 12 to 24 months?
Great question again. So I don't want to jinx myself. I don't want them to retire, but I do have one of our top ones is Willie McGarry. He's been here 38 years. So he's a big asset there by far. And so.
The average diesel mechanic is mid-50s,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
like nationwide average.
No, believe me, I know. I'm still certified in that too, and I'm mid-50s, so.
Okay. Well, no, it sounds like you, yeah, and I appreciate the fact that, yeah, that you're not, you're doing some on-the-job training for those
Oh,
guys. 'Cause
absolutely.
that is significant, because to have a depth
Absolutely.
of
And
experienced
the next
mechanics.
shop manager that'll be one of the tasks for the shop manager too, to make sure that we have a robust training and hands-on training basically, because mechanics don't really do really good with like looking at PowerPoints or presentations and that. They'll get very bored in that.
Just
They want to be,
practical application.
right.
And so again, so you've already, within your ask,
Yes.
you are anticipating additional compensation or additional pay increases for those positions you're trying to fill?
Yeah, that's
Like,
in
it's
HR's
$20.
ask.
I know
Yeah.
HR task.
HR's
I'm
ask.
assuming Mr. Woody had
Yes.
already said that yesterday, is that
Yep.
that's in the general increased pay fund?
Absolutely.
Because you're going to need it for
Oh, absolutely.
Mechanic
Yes.
1s and Mechanic 2s. And then last question, you've got route performance tracking. You know, one of the calls I get, not as many, and I'm happy to say I don't get as many. I take it by spells on missed garbage pickups.
Yes, yes.
As I'm sure the other board members at times get as well. So it's peaks and valleys when I get them. But I'm assuming that's one of your 2026 goals maybe, is to have that same route software that you're utilizing for can pickups for just the driver for general trash pickups. I say that because, you know, I would have explanations from staff on why I'm getting these calls, and
Absolutely.
and sometimes I get repeated calls for some of the same stuff. And we got a new driver, or the driver is taking over the other truck, and then
Correct.
that's why he doesn't understand where Kingsfield Road is, or that particular neighborhood may be, and I get it. And I'm thinking to myself, there's a way to automate that. I mean, kind of like you said, like if
Absolutely.
that truck has that route, and it's that route every single time, you should be able to get behind that truck in theory.
Yes.
And hit a button, and you are on, and then that new driver, no matter what truck this guy drives, he jumps into that truck programmed to that route. He should not miss a can.
Yes.
And that technology exists now. I'm just, I don't
Absolutely.
know, are we utilizing that? Are you looking to utilize that? Which would, nothing's going to eliminate it, but it would greatly reduce me ever getting a missed garbage pickup call.
Absolutely. Fabulous question. I love these questions, by the way. So Erin's in here, and she's she's laughing. So that's our GIS department over
Okay.
there. And so, yes, we have these solutions from third-party vendors and so forth, right? But we already have the best of the best when it comes to GIS. I mean, we have Esri Pro, Arc Pro, which is the best routing software in the world right now. So we already have that. The thing is getting the data, getting everything in, getting everything cleaned up, and being able to build those and maintain that particular part. So there is another ask that you'll see in the CIPs
Okay.
for Erin's department for an additional person, and that is part of that.
That is
growth.
part of that ask. Perfect.
Absolutely,
All right.
absolutely. So that we can utilize what we already have. We already have that particular, yes. We already have that software, so why not utilize that software for that solution? And that is the gold standard in GIS is Esri.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. That's all I have. Thank you, Tommy.
All right, no problem.
My questions have been answered, but I just want to say that communication is the key to success, and your department communicates so well. You and Gary, I mean,
It's definitely a team
Sometimes I don't even get
effort.
finished typing, I feel like, and Gary's answering the questions.
Oh, yes.
So it's just fantastic. Thank you.
Yes.
So I'm here to say I was wrong. When
Being recorded.
Yeah, right. When Mr. Woody hired you, I thought, wait a minute. We had a guy who was top of his field in sanitation. I mean, had a nationwide understanding. And I thought, you've hired a fleet management guy. What are you thinking? And I really was skeptical. And what I've seen you do has made me a believer. I mean, you have concentrated on the personnel thing, but what you have done in technology makes all the difference. That is the future of this company. I mean, we listen to all of these things about personnel costs, healthcare costs, retirements, all of that. Our future is harnessing technology, and I'm telling you, the other than you and everybody here, by the way, but our IT department is the future of ECUA. And the more that we can do to tap the talents that they have into our operations, we are going to be able to reduce those personnel costs, and we're going to be able to be a more efficient, belt-and-tightened organization. And I see you having taken the lead in what you've done this year in all of these things you've done to automate. Will we ever be automated? No, we're labor intensive, but there's a lot that we can do in customer service with IT, with all of the things that we can do. And I applaud you for being a leader in that process. And I eat my words.
I really do appreciate it, but since I was hired on here, you left me with the best staff anybody could ever ask. I promise you that. This staff here is unbelievable. They just needed to talk to each other. Once they started talking to each other, the ideas flew, especially with IT, like you said. Hammond has got so many ideas. His department's got so many ideas. And I'm just like, let's do them. Let's do them all. Let's get it going. So they're really the shining star.
And anytime you come to us for better technology and automation, I'm going to be a yes vote. So, thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Brown?
Yeah, in addition to fantastic information, by the way, and in addition to what Ms. Benson was asking about the studies, you were talking about the compost. Is there a place that we can do a one-click? I know we were talking about dashboard, but to find that information, to where we can pick it up, what are the hours, what are the costs? Is there a central location that, as a board member, I can know and something I can tell the folks out, customers out in the neighborhoods?
Absolutely. Great question again. There's two places. So we are on the main website. There's Go Green. There's a Go Green, and it says compost. You can go right to that. Or under our services, we actually moved it over there too, and you click on compost. Tells you everything you want to know at the very beginning of it. It gives you a place where you could click on it and set up your appointment, and it has appointment for every 10 minutes. So this way it isn't a rush of people and so forth, and it will take your name, you put your name and so forth, and we'll know what time you're coming and expect you and everything like that on there. But it does give a lot of information about the A+ certification. It gives you all of our information on what we test for, and everything is on that website.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Thank you. Aaron, with the objectives in the book talked about how you use GIS integration for routes, and so that's where I was going to ask Aaron to talk about how do we integrate GIS in the routes, or is that separate from what you were talking about earlier where you use that other program, the Route for Me?
Yes, sir. Route for Me is a GIS third-party platform, and so we're utilizing that now because Erin's staff is really overloaded for what she has and what she's doing now. That's why kind of the ask is out there for the CIP, which will be brought up later in this presentation. But yes, Route for Me was just a solution that we needed to get rid of those 300 complaints for our customers. You know, they deserve better, you know, because they're paying for a service, and we need to make sure that they get their service. So that was a solution that was a very inexpensive solution at the time that we're able to utilize through a GIS-type platform. But moving forward, we would really like to use our own in-house platform that we have that integrates everything together. This way, all of our services are tied together. All of our branches of services are tied together.
And is that possible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Erin, she's all on board with that. She knows it.
Okay, great.
Yep.
All right. and actually your fleet mechanics too, are you at manned at 83%? So you're, whatever we're doing at that $20 to $21 an hour level, let's maintain it, and we only need 3 positions, so that's not bad. And I think that in-house training program where you're going to teach
Yes.
mechanic how to be a better mechanic
Yes.
is going to really get you more mechanics.
Yes.
And who will want to stay with the program, particularly just starting out.
Absolutely.
If they can get their hands dirty, then that's really why they wanted to be a mechanic in the first place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll definitely focus on that and focus on ECTV.
Now, but my question too is, in sanitation, you don't have a director.
Correct.
Why not?
The funding isn't there right this minute for it, but once we get all this, the rest of this, put in place, and we can get looking at our routing system a lot better and seeing where we can move some things around for more efficiencies in that. And once we started saving up enough money, then we'll definitely look into that particular part of it.
And just for the record, I want to make it clear that I think those who do the work should be considered for the job. And I think in sanitation, we may want to, I'll talk to Mr. Woody more about that, but I think we have the personnel on board. And there may be some barriers to why we do not have a director. And I want us to look at that and find out how come we do not have a director who's managing 110 people plus equipment plus material as we continue to get better at what we do on a day-to-day basis. So that's my concern going forward with sanitation and all the other good work that you are doing. So I see Mrs. Campbell has.
Oh, no, I'm good.
Everyone is satisfied with your presentation.
All right, we ready for the MRF?
We're ready for the MRF, yes.
Okay. Let me get that. There we go. Okay, now on to the 2026 budget for the Materials Recovery Facility. The Materials Recovery Facility team, basically what we're doing is, we sort, we process, recyclable material like paper. We do plastic, glass, metals, all kinds of things that are brought in. Those are the core ingredients that in which we separate out to try to, send back out to get back out to first sell for the manufacturers. One of our sorting technologies that was brought up, I think yesterday or whatever, was about robotics. And we do use AI-driven sorting technology. It's through AMP Robotics. It's an AI system for targeting recovery and keeping people in key roles for better quality and flexibility. Of course, as you all know, what we do is community impact and basically making sure that all of it doesn't wind up in the landfill and cause the county to basically have to expand the landfill and so forth. Here's a picture basically of the AMP Robotics itself. That's what's basically in our system right now, and that's how it uses suction devices to pick up product when it's rolling down the belt. And that's just a quick snapshot because that belt is moving pretty quickly. And those arms are moving very, very quickly, picking up the product and putting them in the bins. As of our current positions for the MRF right this second, as you can see, we're only down one person right this second. So out of 9 positions, 8 of them are filled. We're only down one position. There's nobody out in FMLA. There is no workman's comp right now, and so forth. And we had just one person that is on approved intermediate FMLA. So we're doing very, very good for positions for the MRF right this second. 2025 achievements, basically. We do have a new revenue partnership with FV Recycling. That is a company that goes throughout the United States pretty much, but all through Escambia County, Osceola County, Santa Rosa County and so forth. They go to all the Walmarts, Home Depots and all that and picks up all of their really big materials. So they have corporate accounts with the really, really big companies and so forth. And so they'll pick up their billing, they'll store it at our facility, and a lot of times they have to be rebilled, so we charge them a fee for rebilling. And so we've signed up with them, and that is an additional $100,000 a year revenue source for us, just for utilizing our storage space there at the MRF, on the one side of the MRF. So that was a very big win. It does help offset some of our costs and so forth for that. So very, very big win for us for that.
What's the name of the company?
FV. Yep. Yes, sir. Improved fire safety this year. So through Jerry's group, thank you, Jerry. Jerry and their group, which they do a wonderful job at the MRF, keeping the MRF up. Believe me, they're there every day. It's absolutely joy. But with Jerry and them, we came up with new improved fire safety. So Jerry and their group installed some new additional fire hoses and so forth out there to help us out. And that did come in handy the other day, that you might have saw in the news or whatever, that the MRF allegedly was, on fire really bad or whatever, but it was nowhere near as bad as what the media made it out to. So we were able to, with those fire hoses, put it out pretty much until the fire department got there and took over, because the smoke, started coming in and so forth. And then Jerry's guys got in there and had to clean all that mess up for us. Thank you, Jerry. So, but that really helped us out right there, because that could have been catastrophic right there alone. So if it wasn't for Jerry and his group helping us out with improved fire safety, we potentially could have lost the MRF on that one, because it was, of course, lithium-ion batteries, and we do constantly, through Natalie's group and our social media person right there, Maria. Hi, Maria. She's constantly putting out little reels and so forth about lithium-ion batteries, and we're going to do a really big one next month too, about where to take them, because all your Lowe's and Home Depots use lithium-ion batteries. A lot of people don't know that, so we're really going to blast it out there and really get the public to know where to drop these off. So quite a few people do still throw that in there. They throw propane tanks in there. They throw bullets in there. They throw all kinds of things in the MRF. It's absolutely amazing what they throw in there, which Miss Rich saw a lot of that craziness that was thrown in there. So that's one of our achievements. The other one is maintaining performance during vendor changes, because as you know, Okaloosa County and the city of Pensacola kind of paused their service on us and so forth, so we kind of lost that a little bit. But that gave us time, a little bit more time, because if you remember last year's budgetary meeting, we basically had to take some money out due to that issue. But in doing so, we were able to not only slow it down, we were able to rerun some of the product and actually get more product from rerunning it, so it wasn't as fast. We didn't run it as fast, so it was able to actually capture more product for a small amount of inbound that we had. So our outbound volume was not affected as bad as what we thought it was going to be, because we were able to spend more time with the product and so forth. And another big plus of that is just recently, again, Jerry's group, they're doing a lot of maintenance on there and a lot of replacements of some of the worn parts, and it's getting better and better. And throughout next year, that's what we're planning on doing too. So
what are some of the other hazards with all of these inappropriate items being thrown in the MRF? I mean, bullets and compressed propane tanks.
Yeah, there's the little camper propane tanks. People think because it's metal, they think that that's recyclable. So we do put out a lot of, a lot of social media about that. But the problem is they're not all, they're still compressed. So whenever the machine hits it, you know it. I mean, you will hear that down the block. It sounds like a bomb going off. It's very loud. So those are sort of the parts of just running a MRF. So you don't have any metal detectors that can help determine whether or not there is something in that pile that shouldn't be in that pile. They're in other portions of it, but not in the main portion when you do the first dump inside there.
So we need something in the main portion where you do the first dump.
Well, a lot of that's, you get your aluminum cans and all the other stuff. But yes, there are some things in there that can't kind of prevent that. But whenever it gets jumbled up with a bunch of other stuff underneath it, even a metal detector can't detect from that far away or whatever, because that stuff is very large quantities get dumped in there because we do a very large volume of recyclable.
And so it's just if it goes beyond first area, reaches second dump.
Right.
Then it becomes a hazard, just an expulsion.
Well, it would be
hazard,
definitely caught during the first, it's usually always caught during the very first section of it. Yes.
Okay, and removed.
And removed, yes, sir.
Prior to.
Oh, absolutely.
Creating a hazard.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And those are humans doing that side of it, so, yes, that's not the robot side, so that's the human side. And they do find that, and they have ways of shutting it down if there's too many and so forth, so they grab it and pull it out all the time.
I thought you were going to say there was something Jerry was yet to do to
No,
install it.
no.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Jerry's wonderful. Improve recycling quality. Of course, we're still doing the audits. We do the audits every single month with Sigrid's team and so forth. So we're definitely looking at improving the recycling quality through audits. Growing our inbound material volume because we are expected definitely to have a lot more inbound with City of Pensacola finally coming on board. Don't know if you saw it in the news, but that's going to their board and so forth of how they want to do it and so forth. So that's coming up, and strengthen our safety practices. We're definitely conducting even more what's called stop work and audits throughout the year, and fire prevention drills. So we've got some new equipment though too for that. So everybody has a walkie-talkie basically on their sleeve, and one of the buttons now, if you press and hold it for 2 seconds, will sound an alarm now throughout the whole place, so everybody knows that alarm you get out. That's a fire. So that's getting installed this coming up year too. Yep, that and fans. We're getting some fans. We get a lot of dust, combustible dust that go up in there, and the fans will keep that dust down to a minimum. Plus, it keeps a lot cooler in there to get the fresher air and so forth in between that. And so, yes, Jerry's group is doing that too. So, see. So that's coming too. Ongoing infrastructure improvements. We're definitely replacing more and more worn components in the sortation for the output, which are basically the fingers that basically separate things and so forth. They're almost completely worn down because the MRF now is almost 10 years old. It started in 2016, so it's almost 10 years old. So it's time to doing our upgrades and to the board's support and so forth. You're able to allow us last year to build the budget for that, and so we got the money for that, and that's what we're doing right now. Staffing support and growth. Of course, we're going to need, the budget is showing, a little bit more staffing due to the city coming on board. But that will be offset by the tipping fees that the city will pay. So the city did elect to do the revenue sharing part. So instead of most people that come to our MRF, they're charged $60 a ton. The city of Pensacola is going to be charged $115 per ton. So it's a much greater tipping fee. And then they will get 85% of their revenue source back on there. So they're playing the game of, is it going high or is it going low? Because right now it's really low. So at 115, we're better off because we're guaranteed that money. So the increase that we're going to be getting as our budgetary increase, we're getting it back. So for whatever they get, so we're good. So that's my next slide is the MRF service update and 26 staffing needs. So basically, we brought it down from 2024 down in 2025 to 1.53 million to increase of 1.89 million. So that's an increase of 352,000. And like I said, that's primarily in temporary services, personnel benefits, support services, and operational resilient. As of the rest of it, we really did not, have to have a need to increase anything else as of the operational side of it. So that's what that part of it is there. So, any questions?
It looks like Mr. Brown has a question.
All right.
It's probably basically for all of the departments. And a couple of years ago, Mr. Episcopo, I think it was Mr. Episcopo, had stats on safety, and with the number of jobs that they were doing, the number of employees, it was negligible how many folks were injured, and we've been talking about FMLA. So my question was, really across the board, to include Mr. Brown as well, I haven't seen any ask of additional funds for any safety. I know we talked about vests yesterday or the day before, and I don't know what was discussed on Sunday. But from a safety perspective, are your guys safe? Are you looking at numbers? I know you were doing training before. So how is that looking this year as in comparison to the last couple of years?
Absolutely. Great question again. Yes, we have a pretty robust safety budget that's already built into our budget. And we utilize that every single year. And like you said, a lot of times we look at it like, the vest part or some kind of new safety feature, kind of like what I was talking about with the push button.
Yeah.
That's part of that safety money. So we're innovating and looking at new ideas that are out there consistently with that budgetary amount, and that budgetary amount that we already have online for that line item is enough for us to be able to keep up with that.
Fantastic. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if I may, just so that we can note that as a part of the questions for each one of the departments. I know we get good detailed information, but injuries and safety and how many folks are injured and are out. And that it just made me aware because of the FMLA numbers that were talked about the other day. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Benson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm struck at what a difference a year makes. I mean, wasn't it last year that we were ready to shut this operation down? I remember Mr. Stevens, who's a numbers guy, said, we can't go on this path much longer. I mean, this is kind of an amazing thing, and I'm glad everybody persevered because I think it's important, and it's important to the community. I'm interested, of course, in the robotics because family business, but I remember, and Mr. Perkins and Ms. Campbell will also remember when we first started recycling, we would visit the MRF, and it was done manually.
Yes.
And we had people who were like rock stars in recycling, the way they moved their hands, and
Right.
it was an incredible thing to watch, but certainly not as efficient and much more accident prone than the robots do it. So do we have numbers of how many actual jobs the robots have displaced, where we were at the beginning and where we are now? And I know it's not exact because our recycling has grown and diminished, but do we have that information?
I asked Sean Sapp, who is with Miss Ritz at when she came out there for us, and he said it was 6 people at that time.
That's amazing.
Yep.
And I think that's going to happen across departments with other technologies
Oh, yeah.
and all of that. A couple of other questions. We talked, I think a year ago, about an innovative program in New Orleans where they were recycling glass. And were we ever able to follow up with those folks? I know that their stuff was proprietary, but
Yes.
they do some pretty cool stuff.
Absolutely. So I've sent her multiple emails. I've reached out on the phone, tried to call her. I've left her many messages, but I think they're growing so fast and they've got so much going on because they were just given another grant by the New Orleans Saints owner for a piece of property, and so they're growing. But yes, absolutely. I'm still looking into that. Absolutely, especially with glass. The Escambia County new director of sanitation wants our glass now. And so right now we pay about $70,000 a year to get rid of the glass, but he would like it for part of the landfill. So maybe that might help us out a little bit, at least on funding.
Yeah.
So, but trust me, I still leave her messages all the time, and I'll do it again.
There have to be entrepreneurs out there.
Yes.
So it would be.
Yes. In California, it's really big. It's really big in California with the different color glasses and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, the final thing is, I know the city touted a grant that they got where they have cameras with their trucks that looks at contaminations. Do we have any opportunities like that?
Great question. So I spoke with the new director of sanitation for the city. They've got a new director there, and he is also the director of Pensacola Energy. So he does both jobs now. So we sat down for about 3 hours and talked about a lot of that. And I did find out the company that they were using through the grant process and so forth. So I called them and wanted to see if I could pilot the process too. Just to pilot it on 4 vehicles, they wanted $85,000 up front. and they said it would be roughly about $250,000 a year for that. And I was like, that's way above and beyond what we need for that. But it is robust, don't get me wrong, because it's live data constantly. You can watch it, you can see it. I don't think that, not necessarily what we really need, you know what I mean? Because if it's things that we're missing, we can always pull the data, pull the stuff, and do it, and just, make sure that we correct the behavior of what's going on and so forth, instead of paying that kind of money. I just don't see that amount for right now. But yeah, I'm definitely looking at that, always looking at that. I had a very long conversation with them and the company.
Well, maybe more opportunities will come
Yes,
up.
absolutely.
I thank you, and I applaud this huge turnaround, and I hope it continues to be the case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for a very comprehensive and informative presentation. Please enlighten me on your budget. Temporary services, what is that? Why
Yes.
we have temporaries and not have full-time?
Great question. So that is a part that luckily helped us out quite a bit when, like, we had two large vendors, like the city of Pensacola leave us and Okaloosa County leave us. That's a lot of volume that we left. If we still had the man hours or man people, we would have to, let those people go. So we use temp labor is what we use. So we basically use temp labor through a company called Action Labor. They're great. They show up usually on time and so forth, and that's how we utilize cost savings basically on that particular part of it. And they're the ones that are sitting there doing the sorting and so forth. And usually we get the same bunch normally that's up there, but we do have somebody that's always up there training, teaching, and so forth with it. But yes, sir, great question. Those are temporary labor employees.
Temporary labor is more than your regular salaries.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a question. When you mentioned the glass, do they want broken glass or?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And how
They
will
kind
the
of want it all
robots-
cleaned up, though, so we are negotiating how we're going to get that part of it done with the stickers off and all that stuff. So we're trying to come up with a consensus of how we're going to get that happening.
I was going to say, is it coming down the robotic line, or will this be a?
No, ma'am. No, that comes right off the
Separate
first sort.
Say it again, please.
It comes right off the first sort. So
Okay.
the glass goes right away over to the high knop, and then it gets crushed up and then sent down into the chute on the other side.
And I'm curious now, another question. Are they going to line or use it as a mixture to hold down dirt flying? In other words, what's the purpose of it?
I'm not really sure, but whenever he said he could possibly take it off my hands, that's $70,000. I jumped at $70,000. I was like, no problem, you can have it.
Whatever you want to do.
Whatever you want to do with it, you can have it.
Oh, then, okay, good to hear. And when will this start, like yesterday?
No, ma'am. So we're still talking with each other, trying to come up with a consensus. His thing was with the label, so we're trying to figure out something with that.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Because I don't know if the consumer will take the label off.
Yeah, no.
If they soak it long enough, it'll come off.
No.
I don't think they will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Kimball?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I feel like we've talked about it at some point before, and maybe just refresh. Have we ever looked at, is there a reason we can't use like prison road crews for like that temporary labor? I feel like it's been something that I've heard and I can't remember.
Great question again. So the county used to run their own MRF. Did you know that? And they had prison labor and so forth, and they really couldn't make that work. I could go on about what happened just the other day, but I don't think we need to with the prison labor out there. Yeah.
Okay. I know we were doing an audit for a couple of years now, a CAN audit. Are we still doing that CAN audit, or is that completed?
Yes. Oh, is that for me or for?
I don't know if you were here, but Mr. Woody, we were doing a CAN audit. We've been doing a CAN audit for a couple of years now. And I guess as he's talking about the CAN audit, I want to know, are the two the same, or are we doing two different CAN audits now?
They've used some of that same staff for some of the other steps. I'll let
Yes.
Tommy explain how he's using them.
No, absolutely. Yes, great question. So yeah, the one can audit's the recycle can audit that we do to recycling to make sure that the can has recycling goods in it. The other one is correct. You're correct. We still do the can audit where we go out and audit, neighborhoods, groups, streets, and so forth in there to make sure that the can ID number matches the others. That's an ongoing practice. Don't know what it is about some cul-de-sacs with townhomes in that, but they like to take each other's cans and they move them over here, and then next thing they're on another street. Next thing, that's the craziest ongoing thing ever. So we are looking at doing it possibly a different way. Some of our older cans do not have RFID tags, but everything that I've been buying lately, all the new cans that we've been purchasing have RFID, and we'll be able to put a sensor on each one of our grabbers, and so that would tell you through GIS again, and through our system, through the Naviline system, AS400. That's one of the things that the goals is to be able to match that customer to that can to be able to do that, because it seems like they're moving these cans all over the place. So it's quite amazing. But yes, we are doing that. We still are doing that.
Okay. Okay, thank you
Yep.
for presentation on the MRF. That concludes your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good.
All right.
Mr. Rich, you had another question
Yes.
before you left?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
When I
Ms.
heard
Rich
the
has
next
one
input,
more
it'll be very brief. Okay, can sensor. Does the customer have to request, or are you coming through areas and changing out the cans?
No, ma'am. So right now what's happening is as we're getting new cans in, they're coming with built-in RFID tags. It's just an RFID tag inside the can itself. So eventually we'll be able to put a sensor on the truck. So when the arm grabs it, it will be able to read it. So,
Well, I've had my can for forever,
okay.
and it's not going to have a sensor, so will the system recognize that this can is truly at this address?
Yes, that's part of the can audit too. So we'll be able to collect some of the data from the sensors, and then some of the data, also the ones that we don't have sensor data, we'll be able to send out an auditor out there to double check to make sure those are still up to par.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good job. Everybody's looking this way. Okay, so you heard the word. We have refreshers for today. They're here. And we would like to take a dinner break from now until 4:45. 4:45. And I would like to ask the majority to be back so that we can resume at that time. That's 20 minutes. 20 minutes? Oh, yeah. We don't have to wait to eat. Everybody can eat.
I'll see you next week.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Say again? Oh, it's a Hawaiian. It's a little different today. A little healthier, I think, too. Yeah. Yesterday we had pizza. So we kind of went overboard yesterday, but today I think they're going to try to bring us back in line with a Hawaiian. I don't have it in front of me, but the Hawaiian meal I think we had last year. Yeah. Let's go see. Let's go see what we're going to have. And let's see if we can do it in 20 minutes.
today? That's right.
Williams, you stopped our fellowship.
Like you said, this is a special time. Even though it's a challenging week for us, it gives us a chance to spend a little time together. Yep. Something we don't get a chance to do aside of this week. Okay, where's Kevin? As soon as Kevin shows up, I'm going to sound the gavel. Oh, always one deal. Always one deal. Miss Campbell, she had to go, so she won't be. No, we always want Dell. I thought Kevin was in here momentarily. Yeah.
No clock in that room.
Oh, is that right? Well,
Yes.
we have clocks nowadays. We have, yeah. My man. Maria, you ready? Okay, we're going to reconvene the special session of the special meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee for Thursday, May 15th, 2025. And we're going to resume with our presentations. Our next presentation will be our water and wastewater CIP budget by Mr. Stacy Hayden. Hayden, you have the floor.
Got you. Thank you, Chairman Williams. I appreciate it. And good afternoon again to the members of the CAC. Again, my name is Stacy Hayden with the engineering department here at ECUA. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay.
Yes.
It's an honor to present to you the fiscal year 2026 Water and Wastewater Capital Improvement Budget Program. For those of you that are somewhat unfamiliar with our CIP program, I'm just going to give a brief background, followed by some information on CPI, and then a summation of our proposed capital improvement projects for this fiscal year, or this upcoming fiscal year. The background for our CIP project, our CIP planning program, it's a 5-year planning program. So we try to look forward 5 years about what water and wastewater improvements we can do to our systems. We go through each department. They all provide their input based on what their real world experiences have been as far as pipeline breaks, power requirements, plant upgrades, portions of replacements of the plant, that kind of thing. And we come together each year and we try to prioritize our projects in a number of ways. This year we did it a little bit differently than we have in the past. I think certainly with Mr. Woody's leadership, it has gone pretty well this year. Some of the things that we use to prioritize the CIP projects have been risk. Basically, we want to keep the water in the pipe, whether it's clean water or wastewater. That's kind of the number one goal here.
Right.
And one thing I needed to add here. So we have our regional services, our lift stations group, with Jerry Piscopo. We have our water production group with Mr. Dawson and myself. And we all come together and try to keep our projects in mind in regard to our mission statement, the ECUA mission statement. If I would like to talk about that for a second. The ECUA mission statement of the Emerald Coast Utilities Authority is to promote the quality of life of the Emerald Coast by providing water, wastewater, and sanitation services in an effective and efficient manner. Again, I use my jargon. We try to keep the water in the pipe as cost effective as we can. So when you take a look at these projects, they're divided into a couple of different main categories and then subcategories within those main categories. On the project sheet that you have in your handout, you'll see a list of projects like this. The first letter is typically a C or an R. C is a capital improvement project, such as a new water line that we're putting in somewhere to extend service not previously in an area. R is for repair replacement. It's pretty straightforward. If we're replacing an old antiquated galvanized or transite water line, that would fall in the R categories. And then the second letter would be some of the ones listed here, like A for a general project. That would be if we're doing for example, a garage upgrade to the garage across the street. If we're buying computers, those would fall under the A, like CA, general projects. I is for inflow and infiltration. That's, we had to make that designation as an I, and typically you would see an R in front of that, so it would be an RI project, and that's related to the consent order. We did that so we could separate out the amount that we're spending on the consent order to be sure that we can clearly show to DEP that we're in compliance by the amount of money that we have to spend or required to spend each year. The next one is utility relocation. That's designated with a CR. And you'll see there's quite a few small projects, or typically, there's a bunch of small projects, but you'll see the occasional larger project, like the Garden Street would be a $3 million project. The next one would be S for wastewater projects, T for sanitation projects, and W for potable water projects. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, can you go back to that last slide?
Go back to P for potable water, W for wastewater. So, yes, ma'am. Yeah, I think we need to go back to some of the financial folks back from the late 80s to get the answer to that question. A little bit of overview of the system. So we have approximately 102,000 water customers, 82,000 sewer customers, and that's from the 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. Combined water and sewer lines, we have about 3,000 miles, which is over 16.3 million feet. To give you an idea about how far 3,000 miles is, if anybody is familiar with Portland, Maine, not Portland, Oregon, but Portland, Maine, that would be the equivalent of driving from Issue's offices to Portland, Maine, and back. That's how many miles that would be. That does not include another 500 to 600 miles of private side sewer services and 500 to 600 miles of water services. That's strictly the main pipelines going along the roads. We have, I think Mr. Piscopo said the other day, we have about 380 lift stations. I just put in here approximately 400 lift stations. I don't think he would argue that. He's got to work on them. We have 30 wells and 3 water reclamation facilities. And then, of course, we have all the other, we have buildings, we have computers, we have the rolling stock that we have to maintain and replace as they get outdated. With this CIP budget that we'll get into here in just a minute, it is a balancing act. I had this last year. I thought it was a somewhat good way to portray that, but you can see on this one end, we have all these things, budget for existing obligations, like grant requirements. You know, we have to match grants sometimes. We have the consent order, things like that. And then we have operation, maintenance, and repair. Those are the operating budgets. We also have utility relocation, where we have to do those things. We have to relocate our water mains or sewer mains when there's a city, county, or DOT project. We have to get them out of the way. We can't avoid those costs. Compliance with new regulations. I don't think anybody up here has not heard of PFAS. That is a huge, going to be a huge cost for us moving forward. Thankfully, there's some settlement money coming that will kind of help offset those costs. And we do have increased costs for labor, for power, for chemicals, for materials, and the services that we provide. So services like these upgraded, and particularly in my department too, we have new web-based programs that we're going to use for permitting things like that. With regard to our pipeline, miles exceeding life expectancy, then the reliability goes down. So what's our mechanism to address that? We have the rate of replacement. And right now, that rate of replacement, let's just say that pipe is good for a nice round number, say 100 years. So that means that I need to be replacing 1% of the pipe a year to be sure everything is replaced in 100 years. Well, right now, we're at a 0.02 to 0.03% rate of replacement. And that's not ideal, but we understand we all have a lot of things pulling at the purse strings, if you will, and a lot of responsibilities that takes our budget away. But the increasing rate of replacement, excuse me, increases reliability and lowers the repair costs. So we got to keep that in mind when we just want to try and bottom line here, replace as many of the antiquated pipelines that we can. And some of them right now are 80 years old, and 100 years from now, they're going to be 180 years old because we just cannot, we're not keeping up with the rate of replacement like we need to. One of the things that we have to contend with is the cost of construction. This is a nice little graph here to demonstrate the cost of construction index from 2012 to 2024. Basically, what that shows is what would have cost $1 million, according to the construction cost index, what would have cost $1 million in 2012 would now cost $1.5 million today. This does not align with our local bidding climate or Florida's growth. Many of you are aware that Florida is one of the higher growing states, and because of that, there's more demand on housing. More demand on housing and more demand on developments means more cost for construction for the developer, but also those same utility contractors that developers use for housing developments are the same utility contractors that ECUA uses to build our water and sewer lines and replace them. So therefore, our costs increase as well. So when we, every year we're trying to keep up with the cost increase, or the CPI, when we look at our rate increases and things like that. What this graph does is it compares the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, with the CCI, or the Construction Cost Index. As you can see, they're fairly similar, but the yellow line being the Construction Cost Index, you can see that from about 2012 to about 2017, 2018, the Construction Cost Index was slightly higher than the CPI. So what that relates to, as our rate increases were based on the CPI, our construction costs were slightly higher. So we have to somehow overcome that difference in the future. And luckily, during that time frame, we had some pretty good bids. I think construction was low, and we got some pretty good bids, and it didn't really impact us as much at that point. However, what we saw in 2021, 2022, post-COVID, it was a significant increase, and we were faced with many challenges trying to get these construction contracts paid for and out the door.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
May I?
Ms. Benson, yes.
So I thought construction costs were still going up. Are they not? Have they come down in the last 2 years?
So they have come down over since 2022. Now, this data was taken for 2024 was December 2024. The tariffs that have been implemented, while the impact seems to be short-lived, it seems like, yeah, the tariffs had an impact, and we were worried what impact it was going to have to our construction costs, not only the construction costs, but being able to get our materials from overseas. Right. That was a challenge for us, but a lot of those tariffs have went away, but there are still some concerns what's going to happen. But it doesn't seem like it was near what it was prior to COVID.
And if I might follow up, because of the cost of borrowing has gone up so much, are we finding that while for the general person building a house, it is prohibitive, are we seeing reductions in our cost? Is that one of the factors?
No, ma'am. So this may be a little misleading. So in other words, what you see on the graph is the cost of construction going up, but that's not the cost of construction going down. It's an index So like if the cost of construction goes up by $100,000, it's not going down.
Still going up, but not as quickly.
So, yes, ma'am. So that's where that comes into play. I wish that were the case, though. But yes, inflation, has been hurting us a little bit. Did that? Okay. For CIP budget overview, I think in the past, what the board and the CAC has gotten was a prioritized list. We typically would start out around $60, $70 million for the projects, and we prioritize it to present to the board around 30, 35, sometimes $40 million. We started out with $90 million worth of projects this year. That's sticker shock, I understand it, but that is reflective of what the staff, the East Way staff behind me, what we believe is needed to make or keep the system efficient and operating effectively. Nonetheless, we realize that we can't just increase rates to fund $90 million worth of projects. And furthermore, you don't have the contractors around here to do $90 million worth of projects at one time. So we brought that down to a more realistic number. And right now, we are at approximately $43 million, and we're still prioritizing our projects, so we don't have the final list, but we anticipate having that soon. But some highlights of where we are at the moment are $2 million worth of general utility relocation. And for those of you that may recall, during yesterday's presentation for the engineering department, a lot of what we do there is related to utility relocates. This $2 million, that's a light budget. We're hoping to get in under that $2 million amount. But there could be a need for more than that if DOT decides to expedite or bring forward some projects that are on the books. But we base that based on what they have told us. DOT, county, and the city have told us that they're going to do next year. But if for some reason, like they get grant money, then we have to act when they have to act. So in addition to that, we've got $3.5 million for water distribution system projects, $4.5 million for reclaimed water projects. That's basically those projects out on Pensacola Beach for finishing up the distribution and transmission reclaimed water lines, as well as the booster pump station for the reclaimed water system. We have $9.5 million for maintenance in the construction and regional services projects, $11 million for DEP consent order projects, and $15 million for water production and treatment facility projects. And to further, this slide is just to basically help break out what the requests are per division, to kind of give a more a different view. Obviously, the $28 million for engineering, that's my department. That's what we do. Our money is more in the CIP area versus other departments are more in the operating budget area. So our operating is much lower than some of the others because this is what we do. Maintenance constructions, $4.5 million. Again, regional service, I won't go through all these. The big thing I would like to point out is that water reclamation right now is at zero. Right now, we have been talking about, how to get the water to people and get wastewater from people and to treat it, but we can't forget about the backside of our system. We have to be thinking about wetlands. We have to be thinking about where this water is going to go to the hurricane. And from Mr. Sears's presentation the other day, those are some of the things that we got to be looking at for the future. We don't have to have those immediately, which is why there's nothing up there at this time. But we will be looking at those projects in the future. I should also note that when I say that we whittled down the $90 million down to about the $42, $43 million area, that does not include $5.3 million worth of well projects, potable well projects that were related to the PFAS compliance, things that we have to do for that. The intent there is to use funds from settlements to pay for those costs and not have it be absorbed through our CIP budget.
Ask a question.
Yes, sir.
I think you have.
Sorry.
Well, with regard to the PFAS, I know that the EPA has changed the guidelines and the time frame when we are supposed to be in compliance. But there's still dangerous chemicals in there. If we have, if we get the money from our settlements, can we maintain the same timeline without backing off per the EPA? I mean, do you think there are going to be enough funds for us to get into compliance as fast as possible and within the time frame that was originally projected by the EPA?
I'd actually defer that question to either Water Production or Mr. Woody. It'd be more appropriate for them to respond to that question at the moment.
We're going to be receiving funds in about 3 different categories. The basic settlement funds, which is the lion's share of that, probably in the low 40-some million, 42, maybe a little higher. We have some other categorical settlement funds coming to us because we were part of the Bellwether, thank you. And we have another third category that we're receiving some as well. Those numbers aren't all out yet, so it's kind of hard to tell. We've been publicly saying probably we'll have 85 to maybe, if we're lucky, 90% of our capital covered by these settlement funds. We'll still have to make up some of that toward the end of the compliance time to get that last couple going. And then what isn't covered and will have to be paid for by our rate base is the ongoing operational costs. And you may remember one of Tom's graphs from yesterday that showed that where we used to be spending $1 million a year changing out carbon, grain activated carbon, at some point in time maybe $5 and $6 million a year.
Can I do a sort of a follow-up detour? So we're doing these carbon filters. There was an article I recently read that some communities are using this reverse osmosis system, which they say is very effective. Have we looked at that, and how does that compare in cost? And I'm sorry, because this is a detour.
Yeah, I'll let Tom Dawson answer that question.
We talked a little bit yesterday about some evaluations we've had ongoing. Reverse osmosis is quite a bit more expensive than the GAC removal technologies and resins and that kind of stuff. One of the big problems with reverse osmosis is you have a reject product that's highly contaminated when you're done, and you got to figure out how to get rid of that.
Okay.
I mean, it's one of the removal techniques, but it is more costly than the others.
Thank you.
And some of those technologies are more applicable to a centralized water treatment system where you do all your treatment at one location and then disperse into but because of their sand and gravel aquifer, we have a very decentralized system with wells all over our service area and treatment happening at those individual wells.
Brown?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Aren't we, or I know that we had discussed in the years past that we were kind of ahead of the game with respect to meeting the requirements for PFAS. Are we still on track to be ahead of the game, or do we find ourselves falling in line with everyone else, or maybe even falling behind? I know each one of you guys in the last couple of years, what we've heard was just very enlightening but encouraging. So are we still in that status?
Right, yeah, and talking to other utilities, we're definitely ahead of the curve. Some of them are really struggling to try to get the funding, and they're just starting. We've got 13 of our wells already with PFAS treatment, and we're working on another 4 right now. And then we have a schedule to get the work done. As we discussed yesterday, the EPA just announced they're going to extend the deadline by 2 years. So that gives us a little more flexibility. But it would be nice to get some settlement funds, you know, to keep them rolling, because at some point, if we don't get it, we will have to find the funding to go ahead and get them going so we can have them done in time.
So funding aside, we're still good. We're on track. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Call me anything.
No.
I'm sorry, maybe I missed this. On your budgetary ask, is this for the next year? Or are we looking at 5 years ahead?
So, may I respond?
Yes,
Chairman Wilson?
absolutely.
So this is just the 43 million plus or minus that we'll be asking for this year is just going to be for fiscal year '26. There are some CIP data sheets in the agenda packet, and those kind of outline over the next 5 years total.
I understand.
So,
And on our equipment, that, I mean, there's a possibility that availability of it is in question. I know you don't have a miracle ball that you look at and say, well, I know this, but is there any reason that we should think maybe the materials that we use on a yearly basis, stockpile some of that? And if we do, how much do we actually look at? Is that clear? I mean, am I?
yes, sir. And I want to ask for regional services and or lift station group certainly come up and if they have anything to add. But we do try to balance every year because we can't obviously buy everything that we need or over 4 years period of time there. But to your point about antiquated or like pumps, for example, I think pumps is a big one for a big lift station that they no longer make the pump, and so we have to keep one in stock. Well, that pump is a very expensive pump. We have to order it from overseas, and it takes 6 months to manufacture, maybe more. And so we try to plan ahead as best we can. I want to say they do, and then keep our warehouse stock based on a trend line from past years. So
I appreciate the job that you're doing, that you're coupled with. I mean,
yes, sir. That's. I don't want to take any credit for that. That's those
all
guys.
of you, everyone.
Yes,
So, it's amazing. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So on the list of projects, is it not prioritized at all? Or is it, so like, I mean, if you're saying 43, can we just add down and kind of figure out where that's at? Or are they not?
These, the long list you have of $90 million project, those are not prioritized on here whatsoever.
Okay.
So they're just listed in alphanumeric number by CIP project.
Okay.
Gotcha. And I'm just summarizing here some of the things we've already talked about. The ECUA staff are still prioritizing CIP projects to reduce the fiscal year '26 budget request. As noted earlier, replacement rate, I'll slow down here, of our antiquated assets is an ongoing challenge, and that's not just specific to ECUA, that's nationwide. It's becoming more of a priority. The biggest, I think one of the good examples of that, if I may, is, for example, we obtained grants for trunk lines, like Tarragona trunk or Carpenter's Creek trunk line back, I think, in the 50s or 60s, and those were constructed back then. Good, we got the grant money. That's fantastic, but now we have to rehabilitate them or we have to replace some of them. Well, we need to try to be more proactive and plan for that more in advance. I know that's what proactive means, but I'm just saying that that's becoming more of a challenge for us. Construction projects to address the PFAS are not included with the budget. I think we've just discussed that. Some projects are being split into phases due to the costs, contractor availability, and other needs. One specific project grouping is one related to the Inner-Arity Point Road water main and force main replacements. That's projected to be between $12 and $15 million. that would be a really hard hit to our budget if we try to do all that in 1 year. So we're trying to split that up where it makes sense into phases. The construction cost index does seem to be stabilizing for our region again, but that's not reflective of our current bidding environment. So just take that with a grain of salt, but that is something to kind of, a metric with which we can look at to see, hey, where do we compare on a national level versus local? With that, I'm opening it up for more questions.
Kimball? Yeah. So I just remembering years past, there used to be there was CIP for like sewer expansion. Does any of this qualify as sewer expansion? I mean, or?
No, sir. In general, the answer is no. What I do have on here, but we'll see if it gets prioritized or makes it onto the list of priority projects, is an oversizing budget, and typically that falls in my department. Whenever there's a water or system extension, perhaps to serve a subdivision, we would add money out of our oversizing budget to go in and fund additional sewer service laterals or take a sewer line down a road or something like that to pick up another few customers if we can. But other than that, there's really no place on our budget right now for sewer expansion. I hate to say that. But again, we're trying to prioritize, and this, I understand this is coming from an engineer that, and not someone that has to look at a different picture than what you all have to look at. So I get that. But for us, for me, it's prioritization of our existing assets to protect and serve those customers that we have now, and understand there's water quality issues, environmental concerns that would necessitate occasionally for the septic to sewer program. Since we're on the topic of septic to sewer, I do know that I need to provide the board and provide the CAC some more information regarding our septic to sewer program, particularly the prioritization chart. I'll get that to you all very soon, and then we can perhaps take a look at that in the future as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How does the county view the septic to sewer? Are they encouraging, they're looking at that issue because we've lived in our location over 50 years. They did road work on Olive Road, but yet I was told they could not run a sewer line down Boyd Street to where we are on Deloach Street. So my question is, will that area ever get considered?
I will have to look into that street specifically. With regard to your question about how the county views, I would obviously let them have to answer that question, but from what I've seen, it's favorable. They have put up some of their own money for each district, like Beach Haven, for example. We put up a lot of money for Beach Haven, and forgive me, I don't know the specific amount that East UA put up for sewer expansion, but the county ultimately came in and paid an additional $1 or $2 million into the sewer expansion program. So I know, and same thing for, I think, phase 1 of Beach Haven, they put on a little bit there. And that money ultimately came down from like ARPA funding from the federal level through the county. But the county commissioners have, in history, they've put in some of their own money from each district, depending on where it is. So I think they view it as being
favorable. I really appreciate you being fiscally responsible and honest about what you can try and do within that year's time frame. My question is, with respect to the septic to sewer, is there an increased customer need or desire to have it? And if so, how are you able to balance that? I hear what you're saying about not being able to do all of it at one time, especially now with the other projects. But is there an increase that you can hear from customers or from some of the other constituents, businesses, if you will, that want that extended line?
Yes, sir. So that's a great question, and I'll try to answer that as best I can. Yes, there is people have voiced the want for sewer. I think that some folks, different subdivisions have more of an interest in septic to sewer conversion because they're older subdivisions, their septic tanks are failing, and then they're just tired of having to get them repumped and replaced continually, and so we get a lot of phone calls there. Ultimately, though, we try to go into a neighborhood that has expressed interest, and we would do, we're now doing an interest survey. West Inslee is a good example of that. We've reached out, but we've only gotten, so far, 34% of the people want sewer. And so the question then becomes, do you put sewer in an area where they don't want sewer, where they don't want a sewer, where the customer doesn't want a sewer bill? And so that becomes a challenge for ECUA and how, those septic to sewer projects get funded, particularly in light of that if we don't have a 50% of the people that want to participate, that's a challenge, and that's just one we're trying to overcome.
So Stevens and I were talking, it's probably not going to be a problem out in Cantonment and Molino. Everybody likes the way it is and want to keep it there, but the number of folks that are asking, maybe in the places here in town, the business districts, which are building faster than I can shake a stick at, there's more housing and apartment complexes between, if you just go up Highway 29, I'm like, where's the water coming from and where is it going? What's that, 9 Mile Road? No, Pine Forest Road?
Yes.
2 lanes, and they've got 4 new complexes out there. And I'm like, where are the wells? Where's the water? And is there a septic to sewer issue? If you would just kind of keep us posted as we go along, because the growth is tremendous, and kind of concerned if we were able to keep up with it, especially with budget constraints.
The cost to construct, we usually typically would measure that on a cost per connection basis to judge feasibility. And, let's just say we market it $15,000 per connection. Well, the money that we get back in revenues doesn't really pay for that, that we've seen over 50, even 100 years. So it's difficult, but that's, we're a water and sewer utility, and we have to balance that. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, from a process point of view, typically you come with a ranked CIP list, and so you're saying this isn't ranked yet, so you'll come back to us when?
Correct. Yes, ma'am. We haven't really discussed that. I want to say we're close. Do we want to give them a date, Mr. Woody?
I think that's going to be in your June meeting.
Okay. So, and then what we typically do is say, yeah, this is the cutoff that you have said, and we may add, sometimes we kind of leapfrog and things like that, but at this point, we're just taking a snapshot of all the things that we need. So there's not a lot to discuss in terms of priorities at this point. Am I correct?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, and Mr. Hayden makes a good point, is that one of the challenges we're experiencing is because, we're an older community that's been established for a long time. A lot of the pipes have been in the ground a very long time, and we're not, replacing, at the rate we really should be. We have focused on sewer expansion before rather than, real aggressive replacement. And, kind of the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but it's breaking. I mean, I had Northeast Pensacola had a bunch of sewer spills, and poor people that live at the bottom of the hill have had sewage flowing, into their creek and stuff for about, you've seen on the news, I'm sure, for about the past year. And thankfully the staff's gotten real aggressive and tried to address that as quickly as possible. But I'm sure that's not the only situation that's like that, where that, main part of the trunk line and stuff is just deteriorating to the point that it has to be replaced. So I'm, out of necessity, I'm trying to be as practical as possible. I'm probably going to be focusing more on replacement rather than expansion, for the next 16 months or so that I'm here, and I don't know what the board will do. I'm sure that we'll have to bear that in mind, because it's, you get calls that say, hey, these streets would really like to have sewer. There's, some of us in this little cul-de-sac or this little area that would really like to expand sewer here. That's one thing. But then when you get a whole big area that says, our sewer lines are broken and sewage is flowing where it's not supposed to be, that's another thing, So that's kind of what I'm have to try to focus on.
I would encourage you to give us that list of pipes that need to be replaced in some kind of order as you would approach that. And then also sewer expansion is another program that I want you to continue to track. I mean, it may not garner the attention, but like over there in Inslee, well, I think we started out with 20%. Now we're up to 34%. And then I could tell you, many people don't know the benefits. They only look at the cost. And as you talked about, the benefits far outweigh their expenses. So just from an investment in that area alone, they should say yes. And so they may not realize that, but over time, they too benefit, and over time, they do also connect. And I think the same thing can be proven from what happened in Brownsville. We started pretty low in Brownsville as well. And can you tell me what percentage we are at right now in that area?
I believe we got up to 35%.
In Brownsville?
Yes.
Well, they too will benefit from that, and and they may not realize it, but, and I say this sincerely, I know for a fact, every study has proven for a fact that once private investment comes in, once public investment comes in, then private investment follows. So many of those properties that have been upgraded will then be having houses and businesses in that area, and property will be bought and sold in that area, and they will then connect. So it's a win-win. And when we go in Inslee and see where it is most recently installed, you can see where houses and businesses have been purchased and built recently. I mean, within the last 3-4 years or so. So it's a visual difference between having sewer and not having gravity drain sewer and not having gravity drain sewer. So give us some information that we can use to definitely keep. We don't want customers to be complaining about leaky pipes. That's a bad deal. And then you didn't talk about it, but growth. Growth should pay for growth. And so somehow I need to know, based upon this being a growing area and all the building that's going on in the area, how are we going to help that pay for some of the services, particularly to these new areas that we provide? Because I don't want generally across the board for my elderly lady, whoever she may be, or elderly gentleman, whoever he may be, to have to incur all the costs that some of it could have been paid for through expansion. And if so, I want us to see how we can maximize the expansion costs. Because I talk to people, and we're pretty lenient on our cost, expanded services versus the private industry. So there is room to take advantage of that. And so I just want us to consider that at the next time you come up here with that prioritized list on how we are approaching growth paying for growth, so that if we're still growing at a percentage rate over the course of the county with water and wastewater, how are those areas paying for all of that growth and all the other expenses that we incur not being used by those who are already in the system paying? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. There's a pretty extensive list, and for the sake of time, I probably won't go through all of our cost sharing that we do with developers. And you're absolutely right, growth is paying for growth. And what we got to be careful of to make sure that the growth doesn't pay for something else, that when the ECUA is supposed to cost share, that we absolutely do that. When we do, on occasion, if a gravity sewer line for a new development is going by a house, then we do pay for it and stub up a sewer service. A lot of what we're doing these days is, a lot of what development's coming in is low-pressure sewer, just because the cost of development for gravity sewer with the lift station is significantly more than if a customer puts in low pressure and then each home puts in a grinder pump. I'm a little concerned about that.
Is that our decision?
That's partly our decision, yes, sir. But we can't, when you're looking at the feasibility of construction, you're talking about with a lift station costing, round numbers, $1 million, $750,000 in gravity sewer. You're looking at cost per connection of $50,000, $60,000 per connection. And we need to balance, and this is kind of me saying this, that would ECUA be willing to spend $50,000 to $60,000 per connection on a sewer expansion project while asking the developers to pay $50,000 to $60,000 per connection? And I think there's a balance there of, okay, if we're asking the developer to pay this, then ECUA would pay this. And we have been sticking around the $15,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 per connection. And if you go $60,000 per connection, then that's going to hit development pretty hard. So
What's the difference? What's the difference between the two? Why they have to pay so much more than we would be willing to pay? Why would?
Well, that's my point. Is what we're asking our ratepayers to pay for sewer expansion. When we consider that, should we really be asking the developers to pay more than what ECUA is willing to pay for sewer expansion? But that's one of the things that I need to provide the board, the CAC, with for that sewer system or sewer expansion strategic plan, if you will, to look at those kind of things and come back to the board and CAC and point out all these options. And it is a much larger discussion for a different day, but I'm trying to give a little bit of insight as to what you're asking.
Okay.
Mr. Woody may have some additional things to add to that.
Okay. Looks like Mr. Stevens has some insight into that. Go ahead, Mr. Stevens.
And at the risk of dragging this meeting on, because I've got so much to say on this subject that you just brought up right now, but in the interest of time, I'm not. But I am looking forward to having a further discussion. But I can tell you, Mr. Williams, and the board members that the builders and developers pay a massive amount. I mean, I'm on the other side of it, so I see what builders and developers are paying for. So when growth paying for growth, I'm a huge believer in that. Growth should pay for growth, and they pay it and then some on top of that. What a lot of folks, elected officials in Escambia and Santa Rosa County, lose sight of is who ends up paying that, put it on the builder. And it's like impact fees. And they're like, well, it's $1,500 a house. I'm like, make it $5,000. Well, no, we don't need $5,000. Make it $10,000, because that's going to the consumer. That's going to the end user. The builder and developer is not paying any of it, not a copper penny of it. Every bit of that's going to the consumer. So then we get the consumers, we get our public officials, our elected officials talking about affordable housing. And they're pointing the finger at the builder and developer without looking at the 3 or 4 fingers pointed right back at us. Because again, the builders and developers are looking at it like, here's our tap fee, here's our connection fees, here's our lift stations, here's high pressure versus low pressure and so forth. All those costs get added. They got to go somewhere. They're going to the development cost of the lots, which in turn goes to the house, but the house goes to the consumer. So there's no silver bullet. It's not a blame game here. It's like Mr. Hayden's saying, and it's a balancing act that he does a pretty good job of most of the time, is trying to be fairness for the builder and developer. But we're not being fair to the builder and developer. No one really, let's face it, most people don't really care about the builder and developer. We're trying to be cognizant of the end user. We're trying to be aware of affordable housing. We're trying to get and garner more affordable housing, because right now I'm not going to my soapbox on how unaffordable affordable housing is. It gets so much where I have fellow elected officials tell me, stop using the word affordable housing, Kevin. Now it's referred to as attainable housing. That's pretty darn relative. Attainable, what's attainable for me may not be attainable for somebody else. So I could go on, which I'm not about this subject, but when I hear that, and impact fees and this and that, and the greedy builders and developers and so forth like that, I'm like, wow. Every single dollar that we as a municipality utility, it's not just us, FPL, whatever, every bit of that, right to the consumer. So there's got to be a happy median. I don't have an answer for it. I think if I did, I could be president or something. But it is a quandary that Stacy and his department have to figure out. I have to figure it out on development and construction and investment and ends in my day job. And then working hopefully with our other elected officials. Because again, ultimately that's what we want to do. We want to provide everybody the American dream. And so at some point maybe we can, it's that balancing act. So I'll digress and thank you. But I just wanted to say that about affordable housing and
Attainable housing.
Attainable. I'm sorry. Thank you, because I get corrected. So please continue. Attainable housing, whatever that means. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to rattle on.
We appreciate the insight, and we can have a discussion later. Of course, we know ultimately who pays, and that's really ultimately how we'll have to have that discussion. But you continue and finish up your presentation. Oh, we had more after I turned my back. More people.
So, and I certainly appreciate what Mr. Stevens says, and he's right on many points. But I do want to remind us that sometimes we have allowed development to get too fast and too far, and we've created throwaway communities. There has to be a balance. We have to incentivize infill, because otherwise we get communities like Mayfair, like Myrtle Grove, and other older communities that are lost in favor of the shiny new penny. And so there needs to be a disincentive for runaway growth that incentivizes those to come back into communities and invest in those communities. And that's a tough balance to have, but that has to be part of the discussion, and I just needed to add that because that's always been a passion of mine. Thank you.
Okay, we can tell that's a passion, and that's good. That's good. Mr. Brown?
In the same vein, Ms. Campbell was talking yesterday about it's just not affordable. 40, 50,000 a year salary, and folks could stay in their homes. So we, especially in some of the districts that we've been looking at, Mr. Williams, these folks are getting priced out. And I know growth is necessary. I mean, I look at Pensacola and coming back after having been gone 40 years, I love what I see. But then I ride through places where there were certain communities, and I, at the risk of sounding, I'm just going to say it, either poor or minority areas are now no longer, and we have a word for it, gentrification. I moved here in, I want to say the mid-70s when we came back from Germany with my parents. And Aragon Court is no longer Aragon Court. I love the homes down there, and I would love to be able to afford one. But again, as that moves further out, and it's nowhere near us out there in Cantonment and Molino, thankfully, Mr. Stevens, but we can see how that growth is impacting. Is there a way for you to be able to tell us what the studies are showing, the growth versus the cost and who's consuming it? Because it is, by and large, the customers. Like Ms. Campbell was saying, these folks just simply cannot afford that 2-bedroom, 1.5-bathroom. My wife and I are looking at new places out there in Cantonment. I was talking to Kevin on yesterday. The home that we looked at 10 years ago when we were first coming down here, $270-something thousand. The same exact home, who's gone through 3 different ownerships, is now $720. And maybe they've replaced some appliances, but they're still on septic. And some folks want to change, but most of the folks do not. So who's incurring the cost from your perspective, and how can we do better to ensure? I like what Lois just said, those throwaway communities, how are we helping them sustain where they are, keeping them, if you will, but allowing the growth to happen and sharing that pocket hit wealth with everyone, not just ECUA or the businesses downtown. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You don't have to give us the answer right now.
I need a scholar economist to.
We want to give you our perspective.
Yes, sir.
You can take it and put it together and give us some feedback at an appropriate day. All right. Let you continue.
Well,
you said questions.
We were
You're done,
wrapping it
huh?
up with questions, so.
Oh, my goodness. That's why people are quiet. Okay. Okay, well, we do appreciate it. This is getting to be the meat of what we have to look forward to in the days ahead, and this is what we would like to have more discussion on. So that's for another day. As I go back and I look at the rest of the agenda, thank you, Mr. Hayden. Always well prepared and presenting from the big picture perspective, and we do appreciate that. We are looking at old or unfinished business. Mr. Woody?
Briefly, there was a statistics I wanted to clarify. When the customer service presentation was made, there was comment about 40% impact of FMLA. I wanted to correct that. The intention of that comment was that he believed 40% of his employees had FMLA status, and that was impacting his ability to have enough staff on hand at all times. We did go back and objectively look at those statistics. Out of 50 customer service employees, there are 16 that at some point in time over the last year have had FMLA status. That's 32%. Two of those are actually supervisors. However, most of those are intermittent and they aren't applied, all at the same time. So please don't leave the impression that there are days where 40% of the staff are not there. In fact, specifically, over the last pay periods, over the last 12 weeks from February 10th through May 4th, only 1.8% of the hours paid in that period were coded to FMLA, and that came from 15 different employees from that list. Again, only 1.8% of the time. It is an issue, but it's not the 40% that was implied, so we apologize for that.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, huge sigh of relief. That clarification is wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Woody.
Okay. Breathing easier? Right? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Woody, for that information. And we're looking back at our agenda, and no unfinished or old business to address. Any new business to address? No new business to address. We go to our committee communications. We have people that have birthdays between now and our next meeting, but because it's between now and our next meeting, I won't do that for them, but we do appreciate all the employees that will celebrate birthdays between the now and the next meeting. And on the 20th, we will try our best to make sure we recognize those who have birthdays on that day. Open forum, we have no pink slips, so I ask for a motion from Mr. Stevens, and seconded by Mr. Kimball, Ms. Rich, Mr. Brown, to adjourn. And if no objections, we move that the meeting be adjourned for today.